Welcome to Laird Wellness Live. Scott Laird.
Jodi Laird.
Welcome to this evening. Boy, we had a lot of viewers and comments about our magnesium last week.
Yes.
So that was a good show. If you haven't seen it, you can watch it at lairdwellness.com/live. Actually, that's where you'll see this one. You can go to lairdwellness.com/rumble. We're putting things on Rumble now because we're talking about some controversial things, and if they make it past Facebook, then we'll put it on Rumble. But yeah, so we're talking about some controversial stuff. Sometimes we're not really tonight, but there is something controversial coming up that you might be interested in, by the way. This is, now I've been wondering what these guys have been up to. The truth about cancer, the truth about other stuff. We won't say that word. But it's Ty and Charlene Bollinger, and they have an 8-part docu-series that's going on for free starting July 26th, which is next Wednesday. And there's a link to watch it if you go to remedy.film. That's where you go, remedy.film, not .com, not .tv, anything, just remedy.film. And you can watch that for free. We just decided that was something really cool. We're not getting anything out of this. We just wondered what they were up to and thought that was pretty neat. So interesting because we are also counseling people that are vaccine injured, that type of stuff. So you know anybody like that, send them our way and we can point them in the right direction.
Yep.
So that is very handy to have as well. Now, speaking of vaccines and that kind of thing, I said the word.
Couple times.
Oh, man. See? Just can't get away from it. It should be a word. We should put it in the dictionary. It should actually be a word. It's like I could throw out F-bombs here all night and Facebook wouldn't do anything. But the minute I say that, the V word, right, then all of a sudden they just freak out. But anyway. So something that we find with a lot of people who have had an injury from the jab is that, blood clots start to form. And that can be more dangerous if your blood vessels are not open enough. So the trick is, well, how do you open your blood vessels? And first of all, what are some benefits of having your blood vessels more open, more vasodilated versus vasoconstricted? And that is, well, first of all, you get better blood flow. So in those places of your body where you have really small capillaries, like in your eyes and in your brain, where the blood vessels get really small, well, if you got vasoconstriction happening, well, you're going to have vision problems, you're going to have headaches, you're going to have mood issues, you might have ADHD, you might even dizziness, yep. Alzheimer's, all that type of stuff. Just not enough blood flow. Now, it's not just the width or the, how much your blood vessels are dilated, but also how much sugar is in your blood. So, you have to get that under control too, because if you think about it, if you add a lot of sugar to water, that's going to make the water thick, right? Mm-hmm. Well, blood is a water-based system. So if you have too much blood sugar, it's going to be first of all, hard to pump that blood through your system because it's more pressure, right? So there's the blood pressure. And then, of course, it can't get through the small capillaries just as if it was vasoconstricted. So a way to help avoid damage when people are more prone to blood clots, as you are with, the jab and other things can cause... COVID can cause that as well. It can, because it's the spike proteins.
Yeah,
long haul COVID. So what happens is, Jodi, do you have a pen or anything like that?
I do not.
Here, I can use this. So here's how I like to use an example of what happens with the spike proteins. So let's say this is your blood vessels, okay? And then these are little spike proteins swimming through your vessels. So what happens is the spike proteins, they're kind of like, microscopic pine needles flowing through your blood. And people think, oh, come on, COVID was a long time ago. Yeah, it's still affecting people. That's the problem. Especially if you had the jab, you've now created a machine in your body that keeps creating these little suckers. So what the pine needles?
I'm like pine needles.
Pine needles. It's like little miniature pine needles.
Pine needles?
Pine needles.
Or pine cones?
Pine needles. Because here's what it does. So they come swimming through your blood. These are the spike proteins, and they get lodged in your blood vessels, and then the blood platelets come, or the red blood cells come swimming by, and they get scraped on the other end. So now you get a damaged blood vessel. So your immune system comes in and says, hey, we have to repair this. So when that happens, now you've got some repair mechanism going on, some glue, as it were, and it starts patching things up, and that's where blood vessels start coming together, and it creates a little micro clot. Now, if that's happening all over your body, which when spike protein gets distributed, when it's flowing throughout your body, of course, that's going to happen everywhere. So now you've got all these little microclots. And if your blood vessels are too constricted, it's going to cause something to catch. And we call that a stroke or a heart attack. That's not good. So even if you don't have that situation, it's always better that you have more blood flow than less, right? I always say blood flow is everything, right? Blood flow is everything. Two things, if you don't remember anything else. I said it last week too. Sugar equals pain and blood flow is everything. So first of all, reduce your blood sugars, get rid of the pain, and have more blood flow in order to have everything work better. So what is it that creates this vasodilation? And of course, guys, this is a thing with ED too. All ED is blood not getting to the proper areas of the body. And that's what causes ED, is the blood flow not happening. And so we just need to open up the blood vessels. Now, Viagra, I guess, is one way to do it, but a much better way to do it is to increase the vasodilation naturally. So you have better blood flow. And, when you take that nitric oxide, which is what we're going to talk about tonight, through vegetables and that kind of thing, we'll talk more how to get that, optimized. You just feel more alive inside.
Right.
Your fingers are, if you have propensity to have cold fingers like I do, it just warms up the fingers, warms up all the extremities, and you just feel more like your body's awake inside. And so that's why we need to increase that. So nitric oxide is the way we do that. Now, nitric oxide is a gas that is produced by eating nitrate-rich vegetables. Now, we're not talking about the nitrites, like the sodium nitrite that they put into hot dogs, and that's not what we're talking about. This is nitrates. So green vegetables and things like beets are high in nitrates. This is why they've been able to do studies with people going on stationary bicycles, and then they give them a shot of beet juice right before they go on, and they're able to go for longer on the bicycle than someone who has not had beet juice. Yeah. Because beet juice will create nitric oxide. So how does that work? Nitric, nitrate, that sounds kind of the same. So what's the connection? So nitrates that you eat, when it combines with your saliva and the enzymes in your mouth, so that converts the nitrate to nitrite. Then, through your digestion process, turns to nitric oxide and is delivered by way of your endothelial lining in your blood vessels. What is the endothelial lining? The endothelial lining has been called the life jacket of the blood vessel. So it protects the blood vessels, and it's only 1 cell thick, like super thin. But what it does is it creates this gas that basically pushes open your blood vessels. And that's great, except the effect doesn't last that long.
Right.
So if you want it to last longer, and usually, that's kind of an artificial thing to do. But we live in an artificial world. So as we come up with artificial things that come against us, we need to do more of the natural things. And sometimes we need a little push, a little boost, a little cheat in order to do that. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, how to increase nitric oxide production. And there's lots of research to this end. And that has created supplements such as Cardio Miracle, for example. And we're going to talk about another one tonight that I like a little better, because I find Cardio Miracle a little expensive. And so this one's not as expensive as Cardio Miracle. Now, Cardio Miracle it's expensive because it has this effect to make nitric oxide last longer, but it also has a lot of multivitamin and this kind of thing. And sometimes if you're taking a better multivitamin anyway, like Billy Weiss's multi, you're kind of like, well, why would I double up with this cheap stuff? No, it's not cheap stuff. It's pretty good stuff, but not as good as Billy's. Why don't I take Billy's and then take the cheaper version of something that would open my blood vessels? So that's the combination I'm personally doing right now. I've gone through a whole box of this stuff, and I just dropped the stick pack right there. And that's what I was using as my example. This is a stick pack of the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. You mix it in water, and it helps to open up your blood vessels over the course of an hour, and it lasts for hours long after that. Regular nitric oxide from just eating vegetables will not do that. Now, if you drink green juice and vegetable juice all day long, I suppose you could create that effect, but this is an easy way to do it as well. There's nothing wrong with doing juicing, by the way.
Yes.
Okay, so
do you know how many hours it lasts? Did you find any research?
Several. So it's like 2, 3, 4 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
So no, it wasn't specific. So I'm assuming it It varies from person to person, depending on how much your blood vessels have to stay open and how much damage you have and how old you are too. We're going to find out tonight that your age actually has something to do with this, and it's just like anything else. Parts wear out and need a little more help.
Right.
So, and that's one of the first points here, that nitric oxide production decreases with age. So the older we get, the more help we need with this kind of thing. And that kind of goes with the whole ED conversation, right? Yeah. The older you are, the more prone you are to something like that. And that contributes to, so it's kind of goes both ways. So the endothelial function, if it's not working, if the endothelial lining is not working right, it decreases nitric oxide production. And nitric oxide production can, if you don't have enough of that, it can, degrade your endothelial lining.
Right.
Now that has more detrimental effects as well, because your endothelial lining, like we said, is the life jacket for your blood vessels. So it protects your blood vessels from cardiovascular disease and things like this. Okay, so now we really need to be paying attention to nitric oxide. Some people say it's like the third gas that no one thinks of. You breathe in oxygen, breathe out carbon dioxide, and nitric oxide is a very important third gas that no one thinks of. All right, so let's take a look at our first image here we want to show you tonight. And so these are the consequences of endothelial dysfunction when you don't have enough nitric oxide. So you'll get diminished circulation for reasons we talked about. That should be obvious, right? Because your blood vessels will not be open as much, and you will have decreased circulation because your blood vessels are constricting. And that will equal higher blood pressure. Imagine if you had a constant pressure coming through a hose, and then suddenly you fed that hose into a hose that was half as big.
Right.
And so the pressure would be much higher, right? I mean, that makes sense. So that's higher blood pressure because the vessels are constricting on themselves. Thrombosis, that's clots inside the blood vessels. That's what else we talked about, right? If your blood vessels are nice and open, a little blood clot comes swimming by, it's not going to get trapped in there because the blood vessel is open enough to let it through.
Right.
Quite simply. And then atherosclerosis, this is a hardening or stiffening of the arteries. And so that will also start to happen when you have endothelial dysfunction. It's kind of like, picture this lining of your blood vessels drying out and becoming stiff, right? Stiff and brittle, that type of thing. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense there. Okay, so like we said, nitric oxide can be derived from green vegetables, but the effect isn't that long. So here is how that works, just as we were explaining it before. This is sort of just, if you want to take a screenshot and remember that this is how you get nitric oxide. The action of chewing nitrates in the green vegetables and things like beets and beet greens, for that matter, mixes with the anaerobic bacteria, that is bacteria that is not oxygen friendly on your tongue, converts nitrate to nitrite, which the gastric acid in your stomach converts to nitric oxide through the action of your endothelial cells, right? So that is how that whole scenario happens. Now this advent of endothelial dysfunction happens a lot more common. It's a lot more common than you think. It's not just in people with like heart disease. You might think, oh yeah, well I've got healthy blood vessels. It's more common than you think. Check this out. Here's a study: the prevalence of endothelial dysfunction in patients with and without coronary artery disease. Now, of course, what they found in this is that it was more common than they thought. Now, obviously, people who have cardiovascular disease are going to have a harder time with it.
Right.
But it still kind of behooves everyone to pay attention to this. Here's part of what the study found, is that endothelial dysfunction is surprisingly common. This study, this is the one they're talking about, showed it affected about 1/3 of people without any prior history of cardiovascular disease. So that's 1 in 3.
Wow.
I mean, I pretty much want to count myself in on that and go, yeah, chances are that might be me. So the elderly, diabetics, the obese, smokers, people with cardiovascular disease already, and those with high cholesterol or high blood pressure have a higher risk. Well, look at that list. I'm sure you could probably find something in your health that is at least related to one of those,
right,
at least sometimes. And so, that's what I said. It behooves every one of us to look at that. So now increasing nitric oxide can actually stop and even reverse endothelial dysfunction. How about that? So now the only thing stopping that is how long does it last, right? And we talked about that already, that it doesn't last that long. And so this is why taking nitric oxide is extreme. Well, as a supplement, I missed a word there. Taking nitric oxide, just as a supplement wouldn't work because it is a very short half-life, which means it's too quickly metabolized and eliminated from the bloodstream to be useful. We often hear of half-lives with, like nuclear fallout or something with a half-life of 500 years or whatever.
Or, with supplements.
Or supplements, yeah. To work properly, blood vessels must make nitric oxide for themselves. So to do so, they need a precursor compound. Interesting. Okay, so you don't just need to take nitric oxide. This is like that thing that I always tell people when they're having trouble sleeping. Quite often I see when folks do their blood with us. By the way, we have a blood special tonight. I'm going to show you that in a second. And, oops, that's not it. It's the other one. And when they do their blood test with us, if they have trouble sleeping, they'll note in their questionnaire that they say, well, I take melatonin.
Right.
And so, melatonin is the compound in your body that helps you go to sleep. Yes, that's true. But just taking melatonin is not the answer. Similar to nitric oxide, you don't take nitric oxide. You take something that helps your body make more of the nitric oxide, that makes more of the melatonin. And in the case of melatonin, guess what that is? Magnesium.
Right.
So magnesium will create more melatonin, which will help you go to sleep. So that's why I take 4 of Billy's magnesium every night. And a lot of people have found that helps them as well. Some folks have a little more trouble with sleeping and that type of thing. And sometimes that's due to taking melatonin over a long period, because guess what that can do? All of a sudden, if you're taking melatonin like that, instead of increasing your body's own production of it, it can twist your circadian rhythm. And like Stranger Things, remember when they would turn the camera upside down? That's what happens. All of a sudden in your brain, day becomes night and night becomes day.
Yeah. And we know somebody personally that happened with, and also you can get it checked in a normal hormone test, and it will tell you if your melatonin is too high. So if you're taking, like, you think more is better, 24 milligrams of melatonin every night, that's way too much, and it's probably going to have the opposite effect. You're really only supposed to take between like 3 and 6 milligrams at the very most, because it will build up in your system and you'll not be able to sleep.
Yeah. How ironic is that, huh?
Yeah.
Crazy. So too much of a good thing, that is absolutely true. Okay, first of all, here is our special for tonight. We'll show this again later. But you don't even have to do anything. All you have to do is get a blood test. And we will give you some of this nitric oxide supplement that we're talking about. It's right here. It's brand new. We just sent out an email about it the other day. It's called NitroVasc Boost. And look at that. I didn't even realize that the little banner matches the color of the box. How cool is that?
Yes.
NitroVasc Boost. And so this is the endothelial lining nitric oxide producing supplement. And it comes in the little stick pack right here.
How many in there?
30. So there's, if you do one a day, it'll last you a month. And it has a retail value of $25.50.
It's not bad.
It's affordable, but we're going to give it to you free for nothing. You do a blood test with us, and you'll get one of these. You don't even have to use a code or anything. We've programmed it into our system where if you order a blood test between now and July 31st, you will automatically get that put into your cart, and it will just be sent to you for free. How about that? Because we find that everybody can use a NitroVasc Boost, as it were, to give you more of the nitric oxide that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And it's a stick pack. So what do you do with a stick pack? So this is one of those things you just sort of rip it open, throw it in your water, that type of thing. And it's good flavor in it. It's not too sweet. In fact, sometimes I add stevia to it because it's not sweet enough. So if you are one of those people that doesn't like a lot of sweet stuff, hey, that's for you.
And what is it sweetened with?
It is, well, I'll read it off to you here. So it is, let's see, it's just stevia. They have, and the magic ingredient in this, which we're going to talk about in a second, is inositol stabilized arginine. Okay. And aronia berries. So, and we're going to tell you what each of those does in a second here. And it has berry flavor, citric acid, silica, just to sort of give it some powder, right? And stevia. That's it. That's it. So really simple supplement. And I'll tell you, it works. I've been using it for a month. We don't like to, promote anything until we try it.
Right.
We'll try a box or a bottle of it or whatever and go, okay, does this work? Yeah, I can feel it. We're pretty sensitive to this kind of stuff. And
well, you are.
yeah, I am. I can really feel that
Yeah,
stuff.
he's super sensitive to everything.
I take that stuff before going to the gym. Woo, man. That's great. It's not like, a caffeine buzz and you're shaking and stuff like that. If you know people that drink Bang or Monster or one of those things before they go to the gym. Celsius, any of those drinks, have this instead. There's no caffeine in it and it wakes up your body just as good. And in fact, caffeine will constrict your blood vessels. This will open it up. Do the opposite and a much better effect. So, now the half-life we talked about. So the perfect combo. Okay, we just talked about it in with the box here. So you need something that will... here, well, I'll let the image do the talking here. There we go. Okay, here we go. So, studies show that L-arginine blood levels increase within 1 hour after supplementation with the inositol stabilized arginine, and it stays there for many hours. Okay, so L-arginine is the precursor needed to form nitric oxide. And then these berries, these aronia berries, I've honestly never heard of these before, but the polyphenols, which are in many berries, apparently these berries have a lot of them, appear to increase the activity of the enzyme that converts the L-arginine into nitric oxide. So you've got a boost upon a boost.
Got it.
Which is why I guess they called it Nitrovasc Boost. So there you go. That is how this works, okay? So here are some things to know. Here's kind of a summary of what we are talking about. So the endothelium, or the endothelial lining, is a layer of cells lining the inside of the blood vessels that produces nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is a gas that signals the blood vessels to dilate, allowing blood to flow through and preventing abnormal clotting, right? It opens it up. With age and other risk factors, nitric oxide production declines, contributing to endothelial dysfunction. This increases the risk for development of cardiovascular disease events, including heart attack and stroke, which nobody wants, right? Our L-arginine is a precursor that the body needs to make nitric oxide. A new form, which is in this box, inositol stabilized L-arginine silicate, improves its bioavailability, so its absorbability in your body, and supports higher levels in the bloodstream for a longer time. That's the whole issue, is the length of time. Aronia berries help to activate the enzyme that converts this L-arginine into nitric oxide. So these two ingredients work together to boost nitric oxide production, helping blood vessels dilate, so open up, more efficiently. And this may be significant in reducing the risk for heart attack, stroke, and other cardiovascular events. So there you go. Okay. And again, we are doing a free box of this stuff right now, okay? So free box of Nitrovasc Boost. You don't even have to do anything. All you got to do is get our blood test. It's already popular. You're already thinking about it. You might as well do it now, because between now and July 31st, we're going to give you this for free, okay? And you don't even have to do anything. No codes, no nothing. You just order the blood test. Poof, that'll be in your cart too. And we'll send it to you absolutely free. All right, so there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. Now, by the way, if you just want to get the blood test and you're like, well, how do I get the blood test? You show me this Nitrovasc thing. How do I get the blood test? Here's how you get the blood test right there. lairdwellness.com/blood test. What is this thing? 55 biomarkers plus 3 more that we have added. Right. Which are chlamydia antibodies. And I tell everybody, this is not the chlamydia that you giggle about in high school. This is something else. And then the Mycoplasma pneumoniae and H. pylori. And we'll explain what all those are later, but just know that these are 3 infections that can be underlying causes to everything else that's happening. So you may be leading your best life, eating your best foods and doing your exercise and drinking your water and all this good stuff and reducing stress, and your blood vessels are still a mess and you've still got infections and you're like, what is going on? Sometimes these hidden infections, which the immune system has a hard time going after, are the reason. And we can help you reduce those and get those things basically out of your way. That's why we added them to the blood test. Yep. And besides that, there's 55 different biomarkers. We will assess your risk of developing 10 different of America's most common diseases. And this is truly a preventative medicine thing. This is where we are helping you change your diet and lifestyle to prevent ever having a diagnosis of any of these things. We're not diagnosing. We're saying, hey, you're on your way to being diagnosed with this. Let's stop now, change course, and go the other way. That way you'll never have to be diagnosed. We caught 2 people earlier this week, Jodi, who were on the way to, like, they were this close to diabetes.
Wow.
And had they gone to the doctor in another, 6 months or something like that, they'd probably be, getting a prescription for metformin and being told they have diabetes.
Wow.
So this is a really cool thing. If you're worried at all about your health, or even if you're not, you just want to see where you're at and make sure that you're doing the right things. That's what most people are doing. Am I doing the right stuff? Come see us. We'll tell you. We'll help you figure out what you need to do, the supplements you maybe need to take or maybe don't need to take. Sometimes that's for a long term. Sometimes it's a very short term thing. Turn your diet around. What foods are going to help you, turn your numbers around? And really the most, common reason we're doing this, or the most important reason, is because we're in the end times, guys. Like, time's short, and you may not have access to this stuff, and we may not have access to you if the government has their way and doesn't like what we're doing and all that kind of stuff. We don't know what's going to happen here. Everybody can see that something weird's happening, and we don't know when, don't exactly know what, but we know that things are really dicey. Figure out your health now before things get more dicey and you don't have access to the stuff you need. So What are we saying? Get healthy now so you don't have to worry about it later. Get in good shape now so that if it all hits the fan and you don't have access to anything, you're good.
Yep.
You've fixed yourself, you're going to live, and you can help others. Okay? We want to help you so you can help others.
Can I say one thing?
Please do.
So I get at least 1 or 2 calls every week about, okay, I did the test about 6 months ago. I did it a year ago. I did it a year and a half ago. What should I do now? Well, that's the thing. If it's been over 6 months is, it's good. Especially if it's been a year, you should get it again.
Like a retest.
A retest, absolutely, because a whole lot can change in 6 months, and for sure a whole lot changes in a year. So you want to be up on things so you don't let things get away from you.
Yep.
So that's what I tell everybody when they call. And I like I say, 1 or 2 calls every week I get.
And that's not uncommon. People, I've had times where we do a sort of a shortened meeting. Like the first time we do a blood test with you is an hour, and then if we do a retest, it's a half hour because you already kind of know the drill. So I have guys that come to me every 6 months, and I put them side by side so we can see a trend of what's getting better, what's getting worse, what happened. And there's one guy, I deal with him a lot, and we did 4 side by side. So he comes every 6 months and does this with us. And he was good, getting better, and then all of a sudden, boom, went into the basement, and then he came back up again. And I asked him, I said, what happened there on that third one? He says, my wife and I went on a month-long vacation.
Ooh,
to it was Savannah, Georgia. Savannah or Charleston. I think it was Charleston. And he says, yeah, we kind of got off track with our eating. We didn't exercise. And he says, wow, am I ever glad I did that test right after that vacation, because it gave me motivation to get back on track.
Right.
If you don't see it and you don't shock yourself, that's part of it too. We don't want to scare you, but it's like, hey, come on, little wake up call here. Like, you may not be doing the right things. And let us help you with that kind of thing. That's our expertise. There's, parts of your job that we don't know what you do. You have expertise that we don't know how to do.
True.
And so don't kick yourself if you feel like, well, I don't know how to eat. I don't know how to exercise. Like, no one's ever taught me this. Let us teach you that. We teach you just like this. Really simple, really down-to-earth stuff. No judgment, nothing like that. Let's just deal with where you're at and let's help you out. Okay? Yep. Simple as that. So lairdwellness.com/blood test. Again, you will get a free box of the NitroVasc Boost until the end of the month. And if you really want to see someone who did this really well and really kicked butt, is Keith Johnson. He was diabetic, didn't know it. His A1C, if you know anything about A1C, around 6.5, you're considered diabetic. He was 9.9. He was deep into diabetes.
And he wasn't even really overweight.
No, he's not overweight.
No. So
he's got maybe 20 extra pounds that, who doesn't, right? And so he had 9.9 A1C. Doctor put him on drugs, brought him down to 5.9. He went, yeah, okay, it's not great, and I don't like this. I don't like how the drugs make me feel, and I want to be on drugs. So he came to us, We did lots of great stuff. We worked with his doctor, and his doctor was a smart doctor and said, you know what, you don't need these anymore. Let's take you off of them. And then his last visit, his doctor said, Keith, he says, I'm amazed. It's like you never had diabetes. You know why he said that? Because his A1C went from 9.9 to 4.9. No drugs. And that's because we taught Keith things and he did it.
Yep.
Right? So we'll teach you the stuff, but you have to do it. And when you do it, like our friend Billy Wee says, you are the CEO of your own health. You have to take ownership of your own health. And when you do, you can change the world. And you know, Keith says, hey, you changed my world. You saved my life kind of thing. And I was like, Keith, I didn't do it. I just showed you what to do, but you did it. He kicked his butt. He kicked his own butt and he did it. So see his story here. I did an interview with him with my Health Awakening show. And there you can get to it, lairdwellness.com/Keith. He is certainly an inspiration. So thank you for watching tonight. You are an inspiration to us. We really enjoy helping folks out. And we have some new testimonials on our blood test. Go check those out. All of them 5-star reviews. People love this. It's really worthwhile. And so hopefully we will see you do that. And until then, we will see you next time on Laird Wellness Live. See you then.
Take care.